No system, Pokémon Comrades, animation worldview, slight private settings changes, Pokémon, pet Pokémon, Pokémon, Invincible, leisure, daily, there will also be battles. Life is diverse, Pokémon are diverse. Abandoned, forced to part ways, then face every unhappy day with resurrection. Or use a 1,000,000-ton punch to smash all the gloom. Alliance office, it's finally this moment, everyone, come on. Meloieta also needs to cheer. I'm Sheng, but someone who wants Master Pokémon. How could it be stagnant in this place? What? How did I persist in getting here? Boy, don't underestimate the bonds between our partners. Chapter 1. Target Pokémon Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Doctor, can I still be saved? Patient Sheng, I'm sorry, your throat and body are already in danger. Please go back. Eat and drink, don't think so much. Upon hearing these words, Sheng's eyes were full of confusion. Even though he was only 18 years old, why did he become terminally ill? This is the medicine for the past few days, it may make you feel better. The doctor handed over a small bag of blue pills, his face full of regret. Take 1 pill per meal, and it's almost enough after finishing. Sheng took the pill, turned around and walked outward, with slow and heavy steps. The doctor turned his back and couldn't understand why there were such strange diseases in this world. The patient's body functions were exhausted, and white spots and bruises appeared on the surface of the body. Moreover, before these symptoms fully surfaced, the patient did not even show any abnormalities. Don't be so discouraged, go back and play with your family and friends. Sheng is mute. As the lead singer of his own band, his voice is broken and he is dying. How do you want me to motivate him? The night outside the hospital was hazy, and the heavy rain still didn't stop, instead it became even more pouring. Mist filled the whole world, and a few cars occasionally flew by the roadside. Sheng stood outside the hospital, splashing water on himself. Where are you going now? Sheng fell into a huge confusion and was diagnosed with a terminal illness as soon as he was admitted to college. I lived alone in this world for 18 years. Oh my God, I won't let you play with me like this. Isn't it true that even people who love to laugh have good luck? I'm already so outgoing, why is this still the end? Sheng walked by the roadside, letting the heavy rain wet him. With the dim light of the streetlights, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. This world is really cruel. After enduring so many difficulties, I am about to die now. Is this heavy rain mourning for me? In the next life, let me live a more relaxed life. Thinking of this, 2 lines of tears slowly flowed down his face, and under the washing of the heavy rain, it seemed unclear whether it was rain or tears. For a moment, various emotions surged into my heart. Sheng sat on a bench next to the park, his face pale and his whole body soaked, giving anyone a look that would startle them. Mixed with rainwater, Sheng swallowed the small bag of blue pills into his stomach. He has already realized that he is an orphan, with a solitary and outgoing personality, and no friends. Living again is just adding to the pain, it's better to end the pain earlier. As he swallowed the pill, a strong wind blew and lightning and thunder leaped joyfully in the darkness. That's Xerneas. Sheng couldn't help but stand up as he saw the outline behind the lightning. Isn't that a creature from Pokémon? It is a deer-like creature with blue and black colors, with 8 branching horns protruding from its head, each with 2 branches at the end. At this moment, this creature was in the gap between lightning and the darkness. In a daze, he also saw a Pokémon, which was completely pitch black, flying next to Xerneas. Is that Check-Rom? Oh my goodness, I'm hallucinating now. Sheng rubbed his eyes hard, shocked to the point of being a bit incoherent. These magical creatures in the animation are now appearing in the sky. Sheng is not unfamiliar with these creatures. He grew up watching this animation, from Xiaoji's departure in the Kanto region to Xiaoji's championship in the 8 Masters, all of which were repeated in 3 strokes and 4 strokes. Over the past 20 years of journey, Xiaoji's indomitable personality has also inspired Su Sheng to move forward. Now, seeing the legendary Pokemon with his own eyes, his heart is filled with mixed feelings. After swallowing the medicine, Su Sheng could clearly feel the passing of his life. Sure enough, the medicine is 3 parts poisonous. Will all of this just be my illusion? He sat slumped on the bench, surrounded by raindrops as if deliberately avoiding him, creating a rainless area. Feeling his current destitute appearance, Su Sheng couldn't help but smile bitterly. If possible, it would be great to live in the world of Pokémon. At the last moment of closing his eyes, Su Sheng felt as if he had something extra in his arms, but he was unable to open his eyes again to check. On a rainy night, Su Sheng closed his eyes tightly and held an unknown Pokémon egg in his arms. In the vast night, lightning and thunderbolts resounded through the sky. Nevertheless, the surrounding residential buildings and apartments remain quiet, as if everything is in another world. This anomaly gradually subsided until Su Sheng's area turned completely black. The rain gradually stopped, and after the rain cleared, the grassland had a unique fragrance of green grass. Isn't it? Why haven't you hatched yet, little one? Su Sheng lay on the grass, holding a leaf in his mouth, and beside him was a Pokémon egg with a light pink pattern on its surface. I've been traveling for 10 years now. Although I found you relatively late, 2 years have passed and there hasn't been any movement, Neza egg. Su Sheng didn't know how he was getting dressed more and more. He only knew that after 2 dark eyes, when he opened his eyes again, he found himself surrounded by a group of Pokémon. Looking around, as soon as I made a move, I inexplicably fell to the ground, only to feel that I had shrunk to the size of 5 or 6 years old. Suddenly, his thoughts were mixed and chaotic, and he couldn't believe he had really traveled. When he was shocked, these Pokémon around him also looked up and down at the human child. It's like selecting the custody of this child. Finally, a Pokémon slowly drifted towards Su Sheng's side. Light green hair with musical stripes, slender arms connected to elliptical palms, forming a quarter-note shape. Su Sheng knew that this was a phantom beast from the United States, Meloieta. When he was watching anime, he liked this Pokémon very much, but didn't wait for him to react. I saw a Pokémon with a light green upper body and a grass-green lower body. A faint purple light appeared on its body, and it lifted its palm slightly. The next second, my gaze flickered and I appeared on this grassland. Afterwards, Su Sheng, whose face was disheveled and confused, was picked up by Dr. Oda, who had returned from studying outside. Seeing that Su Sheng was an orphan, Dr. Oda adopted him and occasionally helped himself. Under the good influence of the doctoral family, Su Sheng learned a lot of Pokémon knowledge that did not appear in anime, and became a qualified logistics personnel unconsciously. 10 years have passed like this. In today's Fengyuan region, it is only at the age of 16 that one can obtain the initial Pokémon and travel alone. Su Sheng leaned over to gaze at the Pokémon egg he was holding, feeling a bit melancholic. All the tests are very healthy, but why haven't you hatched yet? However, it's been so long since I've been here, and it seems like I don't have any special abilities. When I was reading novels before, why did everyone else have cheats? I need to report them. My goal is to become a Pokémon master. I've been wanting to say this for a long time, but it seems like I'm still a bit of a sophomore. Ha ha ha. Actually, forming a Pokémon band seems like a good idea too. After a moment of silence, Su Sheng stood up holding Baokamengdan and his gaze drifted towards the distance. Tomorrow will officially turn 16. Mu Shogun, Huiji chicken, Shueiyue fish, which Pokémon are you going to travel with? What nonsense did Chapter 2 say? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Weibai Town, a town that has not been dyed with any color. A 1.77 young man holding a Pokemon egg is slowly walking out of a small grassy slope in the suburbs. No matter how many times I come back, I will be amazed by this place, Sheng said as he gazed at the tall buildings in the distance. In the game, there is only such a small town, and upon arriving here, you will find that Weibai town is just like in the animation, a very large seaside town. Unfortunately, so far I haven't traveled far. Dr. Oda Kuni really trusts me. He goes out to investigate on his own and leaves me in the research institute all day. In the midst of his words, Sheng arrived at the research institute and said, "Okay. You threw me out again and didn't leave any keys." Along the way, there were wild Pokémon everywhere, looking curiously at Sheng's every move. He has been living here for so long, and he has already become one with Pokémon in the forest. Even he himself didn't know why he was so close and sought after. Sheng searched around the research institute but found nothing. Anyway, I can go on a trip after today. By the way, I don't know where Xiaoji will be traveling. If there's a chance, make sure to have a battle with him. I also want to travel everywhere like Xiaoji, and strive to move forward for my goals. Sheng, holding a Pokémon egg, walked in the forest for the last time, and for some reason, he still had some nostalgia. Do you still remember back then, sitting in front of the TV with Dr. Oda to watch Koji win the championship? Even if I had watched it once in my past life, I still feel so excited looking back now. It's been so long in the blink of an eye, and Xiaoji should be in his 20s or 30s now. Will he stop traveling? During the days when Xiaoji won the championship, doctors from various regions were not idle, sharing experiences with each other and trying their best to enrich the types of Pokémon in each region. For example, Dr. Daiki's main research topic is the relationship between Pokémon and humans, and he will do his best to explore the close relationship between humans and Pokémon. Dr. Oda Kuni, on the other hand, is the habitat and distribution of Pokémon, so his figure usually appears outdoors. He is often seen in research institutes by the housekeeper, Sheng. Wait, where have I gone? Sheng, who was walking in a daze, suddenly came to his senses and realized that he seemed to be no longer in the forest just now. Here is shrouded in a hazy mist, with no Pokémon around. The wild Pokémon that had previously peeked at me don't know where they have gone. Upon closer inspection, Sheng suddenly hugged Baokamengdan in his arms and said, "Is this scene supposed to occur in the Fengyuan area?" In the mist, he saw 3 blurry figures standing in the distance. If I'm not mistaken, that should be the legendary Pokémon, Lei Gong Yen Emperor, and Shui Jun from the urban area. Sheng quickly moved his pace, wanting to get closer and watch. Since seeing Chek Ram and Xerneas in a daze in his past life. If that was not his dying illusion, it would be the 3rd time he had seen the existence of the legendary Pokémon. Sleeping trough. How could there be a pool of water here? I only focused on looking at the legendary Pokémon, without paying any attention to the condition under my feet. Rushing through the grass and taking a cold shower, choking on a few mouthfuls of water, but it's also quite comfortable this big summer. That's really it. Legend of Pokémon. At the moment before falling into the water, Sheng tightly hugged the Pokémon egg in his arms. At the same time, the 3 legendary Pokémon also jumped into the depths of the forest in an instant, leaving only a small empty land in the middle of the pool. The water surface is hazy, but underwater it is incredibly bright. Fortunately, Sheng has good water resistance and quickly adjusted his condition. Just as I was about to head upstream, I found a stone at the bottom of the water emitting a faint blue light. Holding on to the Pokémon egg with one hand, Sheng realized that he could easily pry open the stone without waiting for him to shock his strength. The objects pressed down by the stones left him dumbfounded, droplet slate. No matter how much, if you don't go out again, you'll suffocate. Sheng quickly picked up the water droplet slate and vigorously headed upstream. Misty people, please follow the order in your heart and gather 18 stone slabs to meet me. But as long as you sail in the fog long enough, one day you will hit an island. Please stay firm in your goal and move forward. Crouching Trough. Alzeus. Sheng, who had just arrived on the shore, suddenly heard the words that echoed through his mind and froze in place once again. Silent for 10 years, but this happened on the eve of the trip. No, how can I be shocked 3 times a day? Sheng pondered for a moment, his gaze fixed on the location of the 3 sacred beasts before. A grass-green pearl lay peacefully on the ground, and if it weren't for this thing emitting green light, Sheng wouldn't have seen it. It's the same color as the grass. No, what is it? When his palm touched the grass-green pearl, a row of semi-transparent small characters suddenly appeared above the pearl. The pearl, emitting green radiance, is said to have deep roots in the legend of the Fengyuan region, external cheating on the account. But it doesn't seem to be very useful, does it? Disbelieving in evil, Sheng stared blankly at his palm, stone slabs with water properties. Pokemon eggs, healthy, not hatched. Grass, don't touch it, this is the root grass. After trying it out for a while, Sheng found that it was not very useful, he could only see a general introduction. Due to the previous 3 shocks, Sheng was already calm when faced with this useless cheat. Forget it, having it is better than not having it. Anyway, I didn't expect any cheats to come, how should I go back? Sheng stood on the central island of the pond, looking around in confusion. It was all foggy, and the grass and trees were surprisingly similar. After thinking for a few minutes, he decided to become a living horse doctor and swim in any direction to the other side. He twisted his clothes a little and put the stone slab and precious pearl into his pocket. Embracing Bakmang egg, Sheng darted straight into the mist. Wake up, Sheng. Oda stood in the open space next to the research institute, with a damp Sheng in front of him, just a unconscious version on the ground. Seeing him not waking up, Oda whispered, "Fatty, use a chain of slaps." The round pink ball-shaped Pokémon beside him immediately jumped up and arched on Sheng's face as soon as he heard the instructions. Pain, pain, pain. Seeing someone wake up, Pang Ding obediently ran behind the doctor's leg and slightly raised his head to look at Sheng. Sheng held the Pokémon egg placed beside him, trembling as he stood up. He spoke with resentment, "Why did it wake me up like this again? It hurts. Oh my, Fatty Ding really likes you. Let's go back to the research institute first and change clothes." After speaking, Oda turned around and walked towards the research institute. Also, why did I go to you? When I found you, you were unconscious by the forest, thanks to the guidance of those proud swallows. I have seen the 3 sacred beasts in the urban area. Sheng, who was still feeling resentful, changed his expression and said excitedly. The legendary Pokémon of the city capital. Did you have a fever and hallucinations? Chapter 3. Duo Jiao, Meloieta. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sheng changed his clothes and sat at the dinner table with Dr. Oda. It has to be said that the doctor's craftsmanship is indeed exceptional. Even the food for Pokémon was well prepared, with Pang Ding and the initial Pokémon, as well as Mu Shogong, Huiji chicken, and Shueiyue fish, enjoying themselves on the side. Sheng and Dr. Oda sat opposite each other, chatting aimlessly. "Doctor, I really saw those 3 legendary Pokémon. Maybe it's an illusion, just like your previous one. Sheng, you should know that those legendary Pokémon are called legendary Pokémon because of their mystery. Therefore, the hallucinations you experience are also easy to explain. Okay, maybe it was a dream I had in a coma." After a few minutes of silence, Oda rolled up with a slight smile. That's it. After Xiaoji won the championship, no one has found any trace of the legendary Pokémon for a long time, and some small phantom beasts are still occasionally encountered by people. Sheng, don't promote such things. Seeing Dr. Oda's meaningful expression, Sheng nodded, it seemed that this world was not the same as in anime. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, he quickly asked, "Doctor, how many trainers will come tomorrow?" "Including you, there should be 7 of them." "Hey, today I went out to study the survival situation of Alola Stinky Mud. It seems that this type of Pokémon is not suitable for Fengyuan." After dinner, Sheng returned to his bedroom, while Dr. Oda was still working on today's records in the research institute. Does this world seem to have an inexplicable sense of oppression? Sheng lay in bed for a long time, unable to fall asleep. "Hey, but I just started my journey. The first Taoist temple should be the Orange Flower Taoist Temple in Orange Flower City. I don't know what will happen, but we'll have to win sooner or later. Also, who did the initial Pokémon choose?" At night, Sheng had a dream. In his dream, he couldn't see his own figure clearly and could vaguely feel the raging wind. After about a few minutes, he noticed dozens of figures with different shapes around him. The crescent moon hung high, and Sheng mixed in like this, eventually landing together on a certain island. The last scene of the screen is when I receive a shattered moon at 9 o'clock in the morning. The sunlight was wanton. Did you wake up? Then I came in. I haven't woken up yet, fatty. Before Dr. Oda could finish speaking, Sheng sat up and said, "If you wake up, then hitting someone again would be foolish." In fact, he had already woken up, constantly recalling the events of these years and this inexplicable dream. "Sheng, happy birthday." As he spoke, Oda-wan placed 5 red and white balls and a picture book in a corner of Sheng's bedroom, then closed the door and left holding the chubby guy. Sheng was stunned in bed. If I remember correctly, these things were given only after the trainer had selected the initial Pokémon, right? Quickly putting on his clothes and looking forward, he realized that this guidebook was actually the same as the one in the Carlos region. Is this a unified guidebook? No, I think it's not enough Lodum from Fengyuan. When Lodum enters an electrical appliance, he can turn it into this one, and entering a guidebook is also the same principle. Sheng, who was going downstairs, suddenly felt a slight heaviness on his arm, but he didn't think much and thought it might be because he didn't sleep well. In the lobby of the research institute downstairs, besides myself, there were 6 trainers standing in front of Dr. Oda, all dressed and ready to go. We all know that Pokémon are incredible creatures on this planet. They can be seen in the sky, in the ocean, in the forest, on the streets, in every part of the world. While traveling, don't forget to keep in touch with your family and pay attention to your own safety. Young men, your journey will begin at this moment. The 6 Pokémon behind me, you can freely discuss and choose. While Dr. Oda was speaking, Sheng stood aside and quietly looked at a few people. The 3 men and 3 women seemed to be acquaintances, with their eyebrows filled with longing for an unknown journey. When he heard 6 Pokémon, Sheng held on to Pokémon eggs and stayed in place. What's going on? 6 Pokémon, 7 people. And what about me? And what about me? Shouldn't it be that you want this egg? No, it hasn't hatched in the past 2 years. Sheng's heart was filled with excitement. Shouldn't he really want to travel like this? Encounter Pokémon, just smash this egg. Do you think Pokémon on the other side will faint first, or will my egg shatter first? A healthy egg that's even more powerful than Neza. I can't bear to smash it. Isn't it okay to play like this? As 10,000 alpacas raced in his heart, the 6 of them had already selected Pokémon and started their respective journeys with the guidebook. Only our Sheng remained, silently indignant. When all the new trainees left their homes, Dr. Oda couldn't suppress his smile as he looked at Sheng's sorrowful expression. It's not that I won't give you the initial Pokémon, but that you already have it. How come I don't know? Sheng lowered his head and looked at the egg in his arms. Isn't it? Is this really the egg? Xiao Tianwan tried his best to suppress his smile and gestured for Sheng to look at his own shoulder. What? Sheng turned his head and looked, good guy. Meloieta. On his shoulder sat a Pokémon, the one he had seen a long time ago. Suddenly, Sheng was so happy that he was about to jump up. He had always loved this Pokémon in his past life. At this moment, I was so happy that I couldn't say a word. After 10 years, I was no longer just myself. Meloieta let out a soft cry, but in Sheng's mind, a girl's voice rang out. Hello, I will be traveling with you in the future. Please advise me a lot. Upon hearing this, Sheng felt an unrealistic excitement and whispered, please give me more guidance, Meloieta. He turned his head to look at Dr. Otakura and bowed slightly, thank you for taking care of Dr. Otakura for so long. It's okay, remember to capture more Pokémon and keep in touch. I'll always be your home, said Otakuni, who really liked this child, with a hint of determination and composure. The two of them looked at each other with a smile, and Sheng picked up the red and white ball and included Meloieta in it, then let it sit on his shoulder. Bravely go ahead, you should also go out and explore. The first Taoist temple is in Chenghua City, and there is a real time map in the guidebook. You can go and see it yourself, and many things can be completed using this guidebook. Just wait for you to explore it carefully yourself. The two of them walked out of the research institute, and Dr. Oda took Sheng to the main road. Pay attention to safety on the way. Keep going, you little boy. So they turned their backs and waved their hands towards the sky. Looking back at Oda's departing figure, Sheng felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. Is this the feeling of having a home? It seems pretty good. After watching for a moment, he turned around and resolutely walked towards the distance. Mellow, and I'll be with you. Chapter 4. Departure. Sheng's journey. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How far have you walked now? Walking is really tiring, and I really have to admire the super newcomers in this regard. Sheng sat slumped on the roadside, his eyes filled with endless fatigue. Mellow. What about taking a break first? At November 30th, noon, it's time for lunch. Sheng moved his body and leaned against the tree trunk, searching for items in his backpack with both hands. Illustrated books, Pokémon balls, water, bread, slate, pearls. Wow, so many messy things. The doctor is really kind to me. From the map in the guidebook, we are almost arriving at the first town, Guchen Town. Even after such a long time, there is still a sense of unreality. It's really exciting to embark on a journey. Meloieta drifted beside Sheng like this, sipping on the bread he handed over, and the unripe egg was also placed in his backpack by him long ago. What is this? Sheng was looking at the map when the guidebook accidentally scanned Meloieta's body. The next second, a table flashed in front of him. Pokémon. Meloieta, singing, gender. None, female, I personality. Shy attribute. General plus super ability feature. Heavenly Grace, thanks to the blessings of Heavenly Grace, additional effects of moves are easy to appear, ability level. 40. Pokémon's proficiency in controlling their own moves, skills. Ancient song, rolls singing, flash of electric light, mindfulness, singing, acrobatics, illusionary light, tile splitting, foot kicking at the same time, the AI sound of the guidebook sounded. Meloieta, the melody of Pokémon, is sung using a special vocal technique to freely manipulate the listener's emotions, making the surrounding creatures either sad or happy. Many famous songs are inspired by the melodies played by Meloieta. Oh, it's quite intuitive. What kind of high-tech is this? Sheng thought this table was a projection of a picture book and curiously checked it. Pokémon Illustrated Guide, view general data on Pokémon. He shone the guidebook at Pokémon Egg again, trying to figure out what was going on, while Meloieta lazily lay on top of Sheng's head, feeling the coolness under the shade of the tree. Unhatched Pokémon eggs are in good health, please continue to take care of them by the trainer. This time there was no table appearing, and Sheng looked elsewhere thoughtfully. Can't I only see my own Pokémon data? Meloieta lay on his head humming a song, and Sheng felt his mood immediately calm, with an indescribable sense of joy. Sheng picked up his equipment and slowly walked along the roadside tree shade. I think there seems to be an ancient relic in Guchen town, and I don't know what it will become after 10 years. After pondering all the way, Sheng unconsciously arrived at the ancient ruins. Although there were many stone pillars standing, the surrounding area was overgrown with weeds, as if no one had studied it for many years. What is this situation? Mellow, I don't know Guchen town, a place that began with bleak events. Seeing the ruins so desolate, Sheng was somewhat surprised and couldn't help but accelerate his pace, eager to enter the town and see the situation. Fortunately, there is still a bustling atmosphere in Guchen town, and there seem to be more houses and shops than a decade ago. Miss Joey, I would like to attend the Fengyuan Alliance conference. Could you please help me log in? Sheng politely spoke as he entered the Pokémon Center. Okay, please show me your picture book. When Sheng entered the Pokémon Center, it was already evening. If it weren't for hearing trainers discussing this matter around him, he would have forgotten that he didn't have a trainer badge collection box yet. I dare say Dr. Oda forgot to bring it to me, but Miss Joey is really like in the animation. As he took over the badge collection box and guidebook, Sheng asked Miss Joey to inspect the incubated Pokémon egg. Taking advantage of the gap, he had a video call and chatted with Xiao Xianjuan. At the end of the video, Miss Joey's results were also presented. This Pokémon egg has normal and very healthy health indicators. Let's take care of it during today's period. That's the room where the trainer lives. Miss Joey pointed towards the empty space behind her. There are also hot springs over there with corresponding signs. Sheng nodded and turned to walk towards the edge of the hall. He had heard the news earlier from here, and these trainers were still discussing it. Do you know? I heard that the trainers at the Orange Blossom Taoist Temple have been replaced. When did it happen? How could I not know? I am a native Orange Chinese. I'm not sure. I also heard what others said. It was probably a few months ago, when I was a young man who became a Taoist trainer. I remember seeing Mr. Chinley last month. Why was it so sudden? I don't know. You ask me, I ask who. While chatting with a few people, a loud shout suddenly sounded outside. Someone is fighting outside, someone is fighting outside. As expected, upon hearing these words, the trainers in the hall quickly ran outside. Sheng was also quite interested in this battle and decided to follow suit. After all, in the Doctoral Research Institute before, no one had ever been exposed to formal Pokémon battles. They were all studying and researching. The outdoor battlefield, where the trainers who came to watch the play stood in an orderly manner on the periphery, with dim yellow street lights shining on the field, also had a certain flavor. Lan Tanghua, use the flying leaf blade. Explosive monkey, use grab randomly to block the attack. At the beginning of the battle, the left trainer took the lead in commanding the Orchid Mantis operation, while the right trainer went straight up. If it weren't for this person speaking, I would have thought this was a girl. Sheng's gaze fell on the trainer on the left. And this Pokémon doesn't look like a local Pokémon. Alola people. I saw the person with long golden gray hair and a light blue beret on his head. His blue-gray eyes were paired with a light blue outfit, appearing particularly elegant. The trainer across from me is dressed in a standard and normal way. Everything is very down-to-earth. With Sheng's mind wandering, this battle is almost finished. Explosive monkey. Use the cross strike to solve this battle. Suddenly, the hands of the fiery monkey appeared in a cross-shaped pattern, emitting white light. With an angry expression on his face, he charged straight towards the Orchid Mantis a few steps away. In that case, there's no need to engage in this low-level battle. Orchid Praying Mantis, colorful falling petals. Lon, almost as the trainer spoke, Lon Mantis waved her arms and suddenly, a snowy pink snowflake blew up on the surrounding field, completely enveloping the two Pokémon. Seeing this, the hot monkey still didn't flinch at all, allowing the falling flowers to hit its body. It seems that the ending has been decided. Sheng carefully observed the state of the two Pokémon on the edge of the field. The fire monkey is already trembling, and now it's just trying to hold on. At the moment when the hot monkey approached the orchid mantis flower, cross-cut. Lan Tanghua instantly stood up and crossed her arms to block the incoming cross-slash. Bang! The scene was surrounded by smoke and dust for a moment, and it was unclear what the result was. "Practice more dishes, don't be foolish enough to provoke people at first sight," said the trainer on the left with disdain in his eyes. Chapter 5. Okay, the owner is gone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The smoke dissipated, and only Lan Tanghua stood on the field. The fiery monkey had turned into a circle of eyes and lay peacefully on the ground. Taking advantage of this gap, Sheng remembered to take a picture book to check. Lawn mantis, Hualianbao Kumeng, an evolutionary form of pseudo-mantis grass, can use a flower-like posture and fragrance to lure and kill enemies. It is worth mentioning that maintaining a bright body color requires a lot of effort. Explosive monkey, piggy monkey Pokémon, an evolutionary type of monkey monster, is always angry. Once targeted by it, it will haunt you until death. Its biggest trick is to make a big fuss, and once it does, it will cause chaos. The left trainer saw this scene and just smiled slightly at Lawn Mantis, then turned around and led it into the Pokémon Center. The theater trainers who have not yet dispersed are sighing, just because the local people of Fengyuan have not seen this kind of Pokémon, and coupled with this person's style, it is likely that it will soon become a topic of discussion for everyone. After reading the guidebook, Sheng also returned to the Pokémon Center. Compared to the battles between these people, he now has more curious things. Why has that ruins become wasteland now? What happened in this place? Sheng walked into the front desk where Joey was standing and spoke softly, "Miss Joey, why isn't Dr. Metz at the ancient Chen ruins?" He knew of Dr. Musa's existence. After all, the second episode of the anime superhero was about him. Upon hearing Sheng's question, Joey hesitated for a moment and shifted her gaze to outside the Pokémon Center. A few years ago, Dr. Metz was sent to study in another area. She said his final message was to ask us not to go to the ancient Chen ruins again. Although he said so, we have been together in that place for so long, and we can't even let go of this ruins. So residents spontaneously organized to clean up the weeds there, but after several attempts, the weeds continued to grow vigorously and there was no way they could go back and forth, so no one went there again. By the way, are you Dr. Metz's friend? The people in this place are almost forgetting his existence. Speaking of which, Joey's face was noticeably more desolate. After digesting this information, Sheng smiled at the other person and said, "He must be fine. Maybe it's just because he's too busy over there that he doesn't have time to come back. Can I go and see Dr. Metz's previous research laboratory?" Joey didn't reply, just silently led him to the research room. "I occasionally clean here, just don't disturb the things inside," he said. Mellow, there is a Pokémon ball over there." Meloieta, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke up, causing Sheng to take the opportunity to look into the corner. Above the elf ball, there is a picture with a few lines of text, and the entire room is filled with Dr. Musa's research records. That's the Pokémon Ancient Sky Ratchet, Dr. Mez's Pokémon, and also one of his research topics. Miss Joey explained kindly as Sheng stared at the picture in a daze. The ancient hollow thornfish, also known as the longevity Pokémon, has remained unchanged for a long 100 million years. Pokémon, who have been living in the deep sea, only eats microorganisms with their toothless mouth. In addition, the wall also reads, "The ancient Chen ruins are a door connecting ancient and modern times, and a place where ancient people came to communicate with Pokémon. More ancient Pokémon still exist in this world, but mostly buried by the truth. If I encounter Dr. Metz during the journey, I will advise him to go home and see you first, Su Sheng said seriously. Joey saw that he seemed to have misunderstood, but a smile unconsciously appeared at the corner of his mouth, sweeping away the previous gloom. It's getting late, go and rest well. Su Sheng stopped staying wisely, and there was not much useful news here. After dinner, he lay directly in bed, but Meloieta refused to enter the Pokémon ball and decided to let it sleep with him. Just as I first saw the world of Pokémon, so many mysteries appeared, which seemed quite interesting. But what will this world eventually become? By the way, after Xiaoji's solo journey, there has been a lot less news about the rockets. Shouldn't he be holding back the big news? Halfway through the thought, Su Sheng suddenly turned around and pinched Meloieta's hand. You were Meloieta back then, weren't you? Why were so many phantom beasts gathering at that time? Melo, yes, that's certainly discussing who you, as a human child, should entrust to guide us, because both of us know music, so our combination is very reasonable. Upon hearing this answer, Su Sheng felt relieved and slightly raised the corner of his mouth, casually covering it with a blanket. It doesn't seem to be very useful to dwell on these things. Anyway, this little guy is also my companion, and no matter what, he won't come and pit me. Some questions no longer need to be asked, and asking them won't yield any results. It's better to wait for the truth to surface. There was nothing to say overnight. The next morning, Su Sheng woke up from his sleep, washed himself up, and took Meloieta to retrieve the Pokémon egg. Miss Joey, as usual, treated each trainer gently and said, "It seems that this child doesn't want to hatch so early yet. You should take it with you and have a pleasant journey." Farewell to Guchen Town, Su Sheng headed towards the location of the first Taoist temple, Chenghua City. Until the end, he didn't go to explore the ancient Chen ruins because he saw yesterday's trainer returning with grass stains this morning, so he must have gone to explore the ruins. Let me take a look at Orange Flower City, a city where people communicate with nature. Su Sheng walked by the roadside, looking down at the real-time location of the map in the guidebook. It should be around noon. During the conversation, Su Sheng stretched lazily, while Meloieta crouched over his head humming a song. Walking leisurely along the roadside, occasionally a few proud swallows hover in the air, as if enjoying the singing of Meloieta. Orange Flower Taoist Temple, a general attribute Taoist temple. I remember using combat attributes to counter general attributes. After an unknown amount of time, Su Sheng finally arrived at the hillside outside of Chenghua City. At first glance, there were houses and trees of all sizes, intertwined and diverse. Excited emotions surged in his heart, and Su Sheng quickly ran towards the city. I didn't even have time to go to the Pokémon Center, so I caught passers-by looking around and finally arrived at the location of the Orange Flower Taoist Hall. Good guy, it's been so long, still a Taoist temple in the shape of a hotel. Su Sheng stood panting outside the door, looking at the tightly closed door and hesitating whether to enter. Just as he hesitated, a young man wearing green short-sleeved black glasses passed by nearby, looking about the same age as Su Sheng. Don't wait, the owner of this Taoist temple has gone on a long journey and won't be able to come back for a while. At the moment of hearing the sound, Su Sheng suddenly turned back. After seeing the newcomer, various images flashed through his mind for a moment, and now he inexplicably felt a sense of time and change. It's none other than Xiaosheng, who traveled with Xiaoji more than a decade ago. He has grown into an adult now, but why hasn't the green short-sleeved shirt changed? Did they say yesterday that the Taoist master had changed, and that they were talking about Xiaosheng? Chapter 6, Do Me a Favor First. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello, may I ask who you are? Su Sheng looked at Xiaosheng with a puzzled expression and slightly moved his steps to get closer to him. I saw Xiaosheng waving his hand and taking off his glasses, wiping them while saying, "My name is Xiaosheng, the child of the owner of the Orange Flower Road Pavilion, Qianli. Look at your outfit, you're a newcomer trainer, right?" Xiaosheng put on his glasses and looked up at Su Sheng's every move. "Yes, my name is Su Sheng. What did you mean by the owner going on a long trip just now? Su Sheng politely asked, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. Watching him grow up, but now he feels more calm than me. You are truly someone who has traveled with super real newcomers. If you want to challenge the Daoguan, it's better to go to the neighboring city of Canez first. Xiaoxing didn't answer Su Sheng's question accurately, but walked to the front of the orange flower Daoguan to observe left and right. Seeing his behavior, Su Sheng opened his mouth slightly and said, "What happened to this Taoist temple?" With a light sigh, Xiaoxing sat on the steps and said somewhat dejectedly, "A year ago, the Alliance said they wanted my father to go 1,000 miles to another region to do something, but my mother Mizuko also went with them. My sister Xiaoyao is still outside participating in the gorgeous competition. As for me, I was originally practicing outside and planned to come back to pick up the Pipeline Museum after finishing my practice. However, I received a notice a while ago that the museum had closed down within a year without anyone. Returning is also a lot of trouble, and I only have time to return to the Daoguan side now." After listening to Xiaoxing's words, Su Sheng pondered for a moment before slowly speaking up, "So, you are now the acting owner of this place, right?" "Yes, but I can't engage in the Daoguan battle yet." Xiaoxing turned his gaze to Su Sheng, and the refusal in his words was already very obvious. But seeing Su Sheng's excited and desolate expression, he seemed somewhat helpless. "It's not impossible to engage in a Taoist school battle, as long as you help me first, otherwise I really don't have time," he said. "Okay, what's going on?" Seeing that there was still a turning point, Su Sheng instantly became interested, as if the loneliness just now was just an illusion. "Do you know about the forest of Mushogong? In an area of the orange blossom forest, there is a huge tree there, but the indigenous Mushogong people are fighting against the migrating swallows. The tree is now in danger, and the wooden guardians are unable to go anywhere else. So, I would like to ask you to help them reconcile their racial conflicts. Afterwards, I will wait for you at the Taoist temple." Su Sheng is no stranger to the forest of Mushogong, after all, Shaoji's Mushogong came out from there. "Okay, when are we going?" Su Sheng readily agreed, but after thinking about it, he asked again, "Where is the forest of Mushogong?" Seeing his straightforward agreement, Xiaoxing was somewhat surprised. "I'll help you mark a position in the guidebook. You can solve it according to the situation. Don't hurt the harmony of the Pokémon," he said. After marking the location, the two of them got up and ran against each other, each heading towards their own path. "If I go by myself, I'll go by myself. Anyway, there's Meloieta to accompany me." Su Sheng looked at the map, looking for the way to the forest of Mushogong. Mellow, Su Sheng, come on, Su Sheng is great, professional atmosphere group, right?" Su Sheng was amused by its action and raised his hand to rub the Meloieta lying on top of his head. It should be more appropriate to call it a professional slacker group. Lying on top of Su Sheng's head all day, he would disappear on his own when someone came. Leaving the city and heading towards the forest, regardless of whether or not you have lunch at noon, hold a guidebook and head towards the forest. As soon as they entered the forest, several hyenas secretly observed Su Sheng, an outsider, in the grass, most likely also attracted by Meloieta's singing. Continuing forward, Su Sheng saw 3 snake-patterned bears chasing and playing, with 2-tailed bears added behind. It seemed that these Pokémon were all enjoying themselves. The hyena dog bites Pokémon tightly, and when it finds something moving, it will immediately bite it. Although it will keep chasing after the prey until it is exhausted, sometimes it will be scared away if it is counterattacked. The reason why the snake-patterned bear, Dolly Pokemon, always walks around in a zigzag shape is because its curiosity is too strong and it is very interested in all kinds of things it sees. Stand at the tail, watch out for Pokémon, stand on the tail so that you can observe the situation further away, Pokémon with a very strong sense of vigilance. After reading the explanation in the guidebook, I saw that these Pokémon were all playing happily. For some reason, Su Sheng also felt happy, probably because of his childhood experience in the research institute, which led him to empathize with Pokémon. Thanks to you, Meloieta. The next second, Meloieta stood up from Su Sheng's head and drifted to these wild Pokémon centers, singing loudly as if showcasing herself. I'm still feeling proud and coquettish. It's only right to change my personality to proud and coquettish. Su Sheng sat on the ground, swaying his body slightly with the singing. At the end of the song, these wild Pokémon suddenly spread out. Seeing this scene, Meloieta threw herself into Su Sheng's arms as if she had been wronged. Melo. Why did they all leave when Su Sheng was about to comfort Meloieta? He caught a glimpse of the snake-patterned bear leading the way, and behind him, Pokémon walked cautiously with a pile of tree fruits. The wild Pokémon stood a few steps away from Su Sheng, with fruit piled up into a small mountain between them, as if inviting him and Meloieta to come and eat together. They don't dislike your singing, they're thanking you. Su Sheng looked at Meloieta and whispered, picking up a blue tree fruit and handing it over. Meloieta took the tree fruit and ate it in small bites. No surprise, this is blue-orange, which can restore Pokémon's 10 HP value in the game. In reality, it's quite good to use it for eating. Affection is difficult to resist, but Su Sheng and Meloieta managed to eat the fruits of the trees until they were full. Afterwards, bidding farewell to these Pokémon, he continued to move towards the forest of the wooden palace. Meloieta, great, Su Sheng's mouth slightly raised, and now it's also his turn to become the atmosphere group. Meloieta, who would sit on her shoulder, turned her head and her fair face couldn't help but show a blush. Looking at this journey, I feel a bit uncertain today. Su Sheng's gaze fell on the map and his eyebrows furrowed slightly. Adjusting the conflict between the population of Mushogong and Aoguyen, it's up to you, Meloieta. Melo, pack it on me. Deeply into the forest, Su Sheng discovered many Pokémon that he had never seen before in Weibai Town, and they all stood timidly behind the grass and secretly watched. Unexpectedly, he also saw an unexpected Pokémon, whose evolutionary form was highly favored by Pokémon fans in his past life. Lariulas, the mood Pokémon, can use the horns on his head to sense people's emotions. Although he hardly appears in front of people, he will approach when he feels a positive and upward emotion. Unfortunately, as soon as Su Sheng scanned the picture book, this Lariulas used an instant movement to leave. This Lariulas can still move instantly, it seems like capturing it is out of the question. Chapter 7. Do you guys have a fight? You are listening at novelfull.audio. I don't know how long he had been walking in this forest. Before the sun set, Su Sheng finally arrived at the area of the forest of Mushogong. Standing in the peripheral area, a tree grows in a huge pit in the center of the forest. In Su Sheng's impression, Xiaoji planted new seeds here in the beginning, and now this tree has grown to a size similar to before. The branches and leaves are lush and lush. The forest of Mushogong. Where has Mushogong gone? Su Sheng looked back and forth at the forest, not a single Mushogong was found, and occasionally a few stinging insects slowly crawled by. Didn't those proud swallows see it? How can we reconcile? Melo. The sun is almost setting, let's go find where to sleep first. Su Sheng nodded thoughtfully and found an open space to start setting up his tent. By the way, this backpack is quite large, he said. I took care of the tent and had some bread to prepare for the night. I'll go back to the Pokémon Center and rest well. Melo. Here is a Pokémon. While Su Sheng was setting up his tent, Meloieta was not idle either, wandering back and forth among nearby trees. Only when he rushed over did he realize that a thin and narrow wooden palace with tightly closed eyes was lying on the ground. Good guy. Su Sheng quickly carried the wooden palace guard to the tent and fed it some leftover fruit from noon. Mushogong, Lin Zuobao Kameng, can use small spikes on the soles of his feet to hook and climb vertical walls, and can swing his tail for wrestling. While it was still awake, Su Sheng took some time to take a look at the picture book and discussed countermeasures with Meloieta. Wild Pokémon are usually wary of humans, so we won't be able to understand the situation. At the same time, Sheng threw a meaningful smile at Meloieta. Mellow. Calm down its fear. Right at this moment, Mu Shogong's tightly closed eyes trembled slightly, clearly looking as if he was about to wake up. Meloieta hummed a psalm lightly, while Sheng sat next to the wooden guard palace. Jiao. Mellow. Seeing that it didn't jump away immediately, Sheng breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed like he had made the right bet. After about 5 minutes of peace, a roar suddenly rang out in the distance. This wooden palace suddenly jumped onto the tree and headed towards the distance. The conversation broke down. Sheng picked up Meloieta and chased after it without thinking as he saw it jump away. During the run, Meloieta explained to him the previous conversation. Mellow. Mu Shogong said that his appearance was because the Mu Shogong in the tribe couldn't tolerate his behavior, and they kept excluding him. This Mu Shogong is the newly appointed clan leader, but due to his timid personality, he dare not confront the group of proud swallows head-on, resulting in the protected tree being taken by the migrating proud swallows. Perhaps due to his timidity, he has been hiding with his tribe members, trying his best to reduce damage within the tribe. As a result, it has fallen to such a point, and now it seems that the tribe has suffered from other attacks, which is why he is so eager. Listening to Meloieta's voice echoing in their minds, both of them are now worried about this wooden palace guard from the bottom of their hearts. The flight attribute suppresses the grass attribute. Its evasive approach is also correct. Sheng felt a bit uncomfortable in his heart. Perhaps he had wanted to fulfill Xiaosheng's request before, but now he only wants to help Mu Shogong get through this crisis. Mellow, perhaps his people are not willing to take over the place they rely on for survival, that's why they are using this extreme method. When Sheng arrived outside the huge pit, the scene that caught his eye almost left him in place. The moon hangs high, and the pale light shines on the giant crater. On a clearing in front of a giant tree, a group of wooden guards were fighting against a group of proud swallows flying in mid-air, but only the wooden guards were beaten and retreated step by step. There is a roaring bomb running towards us in the distance, making the already chaotic battlefield even more chaotic. Roar bomb, loud Pokémon, Gunyanyo's evolved form, can emit loud screams that can blow wooden houses into pieces and hit opponents, with round ears that function as speakers. The thin and weak Mu Shogong, who had been before, was now charging forward to resist attacks from both sides. The scarred wooden palace moves at high speed to attract firepower at the front end, while avoiding attacks from several proud bird wings and being careful not to be affected by the noise of roaring bombs. And its population uses the leaf skill from behind to consume these proud bone swallows remotely. Leaves, hit the leaves towards the opponent and launch an attack. I think this wooden palace guard is quite brave. Where are you afraid? Sheng regained his senses and charged straight towards the huge pit. But its people seem more timid, don't they? Meloieta, use the ancient song. In an instant, Meloieta's hair and eyes turned orange. The black headdress, which used to be like a treble clef, now serves as a hairpin, curling the orange hair upwards. The orange waist ring is lifted like a skirt, and the entire Pokémon displays a high state. The ancient song, the exclusive move of Meloieta, will transform its form when dealing effects on the target. Move the opponent's heart to attack, and there is a 10% chance to put the target into a sleep state, which is ineffective against the sound insulation feature of Pokémon. Taking advantage of their gaze being attracted by Meloieta, Sheng quickly picked up the injured wooden palace. To his surprise, the roaring bomb slowly fell asleep upon hearing Meloieta's singing. Under the characteristic effect of Tian, the probability of sleeping is only 20%. So now there's only 1 or 2 left. A group of proud swallows. As if frightened by the sudden appearance of Sheng, both sides of Bakmeng dare not act rashly now. The Meloieta in its dance form showcases its elegant posture. After a moment of stalemate, one of the proud swallows suddenly showed white fluorescence all over and rushed towards Meloieta. Meloieta, use your psychic power. At the critical moment, a faint pink color appeared on the body of the proud swallow, which was controlled in mid-air and unable to move. At the same time, Meloieta sang softly, calming the angry and anxious mood of Pokemon present. Alright, we're here to negotiate and reconcile, not to fight or kill. If there's anything we don't agree with, we'll fight later. Sheng stood in the middle of the two sides, indeed like a mediator to reconcile the conflict. No, Meloieta is. Next is the negotiation between Meloieta and the two Pokemon, where Sheng bandages several severely injured Pokemon. I'm not sure why, but under his care, these two Pokemon appeared exceptionally well behaved, without any tension as before. After living in the research institute for so long, what he learned has finally come into use. Sheng felt an inexplicable sense of pride in his heart, and his gaze towards Balkameng was soft. Actually, if you two can't stand each other, why don't you two have a fight? Chapter 8. I Conquered Pokemon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sheng held two Pokemon that were about to catch fire, one lonely wooden palace guard and the other bold and proud swallow. They were both headache-inducing and wanted to laugh. On the other side. You can live on one side at the top of the tree and the other under the tree, and it's also possible to visit each other. Your common enemy is Pokemon sleeping over there, unite to protect your common home. Under Meloieta's persuasion, the remaining Pokemon relationship between the two sides finally became somewhat peaceful. So, it should be considered that the adjustment has been completed, right? Sheng looked at the scene before him thoughtfully. It doesn't seem to be too difficult, does it? Sheng still can't do it. Two Pokemon, who had almost regained their mobility, decisively jumped out of Sheng's arms. Standing on both sides with a fierce appearance, their group stood in a pile, ready to watch the play. Even in the state of singing, Meloieta couldn't calm their emotions, so Sheng turned to hold Meloieta and stood aside. Perhaps, just let these two Pokemon fight recklessly. Aogu Yu Bakmeng, no matter how powerful the opponent is, they will bravely challenge them, with the perseverance to not be discouraged even if they lose, but they will cry loudly when they are hungry. The proud swallow flying in mid-air instantly turned into a gray-white lightning bolt and headed straight towards the Mu Shou Palace. To Sheng's surprise, dozens of wooden palace guards appeared on the field in an instant, and green light condensed on each palm. Is this an energy ball? The proud swallow relied on intuition to attack a wooden palace, and at this moment, the energy ball's charge was completed. Dozens of energy balls brushed against the attacking proud swallow. Bang! Suddenly, waves of sand and dust rose up on the field, completely enveloping the bodies of the two Pokemon. For a moment, all the staff were tense. When the smoke dissipated, I realized that both Pokemon had turned into circular eyes, lying peacefully on the ground. Sheng was able to understand that they were all supported by willpower, mainly because the recent dispute had worn away most of their physical strength. But Aogu was surprised to see which one was the real Mu Shogun. In my impression, Aogu didn't even see through this skill. In thought, Sheng once again healed the wounds of these two Pokemon. After the same battle, both sides of Pokemon were able to see the leader's abilities clearly. Mu Shogun is not only timid, but also the proud swallow is not invincible. Only by working together can the two clans unleash their 1+1 is equal to 2 strength. Waiting for the two of them to recover, Sheng moved his tent over, along with the Pokemon egg that had been forgotten in his backpack. If it were picked up in the wild, he would want to reopen it again. This egg hasn't hatched for 2 years, so it still has some emotional connection. So Sheng made do with sleeping in the tent all night. The next morning, Mu Shogun and Aogu also regained their spirits. They no longer looked at each other with the same disapproval as yesterday, but only with mutual recognition and trust. As the saying goes, if you don't fight, you won't know each other, good guy. You three are so scary, don't you know? Sheng, who had just opened his eyes, saw Meloieta, Mu Shougong, and Aoguyen standing neatly beside him. At this moment, his drowsiness was reduced to 0, and he no longer had the feeling of being bedridden. He immediately got dressed and walked out of the tent. I realized that the roaring bomb from last night had already left this place, probably attracted by the battle between Mu Shougong and Aoguyen. Anyway, we are also the perfect ones to solve the problem together. Sheng stood in front of the giant tree, watching the harmonious coexistence between Mu Shougong and the proud swallows, feeling a sense of pride inexplicably in his heart. He crouched down and looked straight at the two Pokémon following him at his feet. By the way, why don't you two return to the tribe? Melo, they want to follow you, ah. Really? Sheng asked in a low voice, his voice trembling slightly and full of excitement. His face was filled with uncontrollable joy, and he almost grinned his mouth to the bottom of his ear. He placed two Pokémon balls in his palm and pressed them almost simultaneously, turning into two red lights that entered the balls. I have subdued Mu Shougong and Aoguyen. Unable to resist, Sheng took advantage of the situation and put on a subduing posture similar to Xiao Zhi's middle two. This is typical, as the body automatically learns after watching more. As if thinking of something, he released two Pokémon and asked them to bid farewell to his own tribe. To be honest, the Pokémon of these two ethnic groups have been convinced by Meloieta's persuasion, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are the leaders of these Pokémon. When watching the Super Generation back then, these two Pokémon were truly capable. Sheng looked around at everything, feeling a little disappointed. At the beginning of the journey, there were Meloieta, Museo Palace, and Aoguswallow. Who would have dared to think of them in their past lives? As he was lost in thought, two tables slowly appeared in front of him. Pokemon. Mu Shougong gender. Male personality. Cautious attribute. Grass characteristic. Prosperous, when taking damage, the power of grass attribute moves will increase, ability level. 30. Pokémon's proficiency in controlling their own moves, skills. Clap, stare, leaves, flash of electric light, high-speed movement, shadow clone, energy ball Pokémon. Proud swallow gender. Female personality. Serious attribute. General plus flight characteristic. Perseverance, in abnormal states, the power of the attack will increase, ability level. 31. Pokémon's proficiency in controlling their own moves, skills. Cry, peck, gather chi, lightning flash, swallow return, wing attack, high speed movement. After he finished reading the data, the two Pokémon also returned to Sheng's side. Let's say goodbye to them too. Sheng said goodbye with Meloieta, then put away his belongings and headed back to Orange City. You should be able to engage in the Daoguan battle when you go back today. Along the way, Meloieta sat on the left shoulder, Mu Shougong sat on the right shoulder, and the proud swallow flew over Sheng's head. The three of them were in harmony. Until Sheng discovered something, it seemed that under the influence of Meloieta, he could also understand the other two Pokémon talking. Meloieta. What will we have for lunch today? Mu Shougong. That swallow, losing both yesterday was purely an accident. Why don't we have another sparring next time? Aoguyen. You are a cunning lizard. Yesterday, it was clearly you who fell first, so we had to fight each other. Who is afraid of who? I can't imagine how lively my language system will be for the next 6 Pokémon. Sheng felt a headache as he listened to them speak, but his face was filled with a smile. Strive to return to Orange City at noon today, and then you can go to Pokémon Center to have a free meal. Alright. 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 It's so lively and lively, it's better than dying alone on a bench on a rainy night. Chapter 9 Challenge. Orange Flower Road Pavilion, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. By the way, it seems like this is my first time participating in a formal battle, and I'm still a bit excited. Walking in the forest, Su Sheng's excited thoughts remained active on his face, unable to conceal his expression. I don't know if I can beat Xiao Sheng. I remember Xiao Ji didn't play officially because only one Pokémon did. Now I have 3 Meloietas in my hand, with combat attributes, and I should be able to fight them. Yes, that's right. Along the way, Su Sheng's fragmented thoughts and self-motivation, at the same time, the treasure on his shoulder and the dream were also openly and honestly roast. Mu Shougong. Why do you feel like you're on a thief's boat? Ao Guyen. What is he muttering to himself? Meloieta. Don't worry about him, it's obvious that his mind is not on the same channel as ours. After speaking, the 3 Pokémon still nodded in agreement when Su Sheng returned to the streets of Chenghua City again. It was already noon. This city is really big. It takes a few minutes to come back in the game, and now it takes several hours to walk back. It's not that bicycles are unaffordable, but that hiking is more cost-effective. Despite the scorched black bicycle and the chance to meet more Pokémon, Su Sheng was able to distinguish between good and bad. After entering the Pokémon Center and handing over the 3 Pokémon to Miss Joey for treatment, he rushed straight to the restaurant with the 3 Pokémon. After experiencing the fight like yesterday, I didn't eat much. Compared to Su Sheng and Mu Shougong who wolfed down everything, the posture of Meloieta and Ao Guyen is more elegant. Everyone, be full. Let's cheer for the challenge this afternoon. Cheer up. Su Sheng, who had eaten and drunk enough, looked at the 3 Pokémon with a faint smile on his lips. Unconsciously, a warm current surged in his heart, and he thought it was probably due to the trust of his partners. He still recognizes the abilities of these 3 little ones, including the Wood Guardian Palace who knows the Energy Ball, the Proud Bone Swallow who knows the Swallow Return, and the Illusionary Treasure, the Dream Meloieta. Even as a newcomer trainer, I have made up my mind about this first batch. If I lose, I'll have to challenge myself again. What's that saying? Failure is success, his mother. Melo, you're talking to yourself again. Don't learn from him, don't worry about him. After dinner, Su Sheng moved his muscles and bones with his 3 Pokémon, and then walked confidently towards the Orange Blossom Taoist Hall. After all, he has already been there once and noted the location, so naturally he is not as road crazy as before. When he returned to the hotel like Orange Blossom Road Hall, his mood was the same excitement as last time. Although there have been so many Daoguan tournaments in the game, this is still the first time there has been a real match. Before he could knock on the door, a sound suddenly rang out from behind. Oh, you're here early. I didn't expect you to solve it so quickly, Xiao Sheng said with a hint of disbelief as he helped the mirror frame. I happen to have some free time today for the dojo competition. Seeing the visitor, Su Sheng turned around and said, No, it's just a matter of luck. It took a lot of effort. He still understands the principle of humility, and is not sure what situation Xiao Sheng was facing at that time. After comprehensive consideration, he seems to be quite lucky. Xiao Sheng waved his hand and stepped forward to open the door of the Taoist temple. What kind of Taoist temple venue do you want? How many Pokémon are you holding now? How about 3v3? Let's go outdoors, 3 Pokémon. This is your first dojo competition, isn't it? Coincidentally, this is also my first dojo competition since becoming the owner. He stared at Su Sheng's face, feeling inexplicably close to him. The competition rules require the use of 3 Pokémon, which can replace Pokémon appearances. With a 2-win 3-game plan, the winning 2-game badge is yours. Due to just being connected to the pipeline hall, the referee can only wait in front of the hall owner. Su Sheng nodded and the two stood on both sides of the field in tacit agreement. Since you're a newcomer trainer, that's all we have to do. Go ahead and head straight to the bear. Xiao Sheng was the first to throw his Pokémon ball, while a white light flashed through. Then, a streamlined Pokémon with dark brown stripes appeared on the field. Directly charging towards the bear, fiercely charging towards Pokémon, the evolutionary form of the snake-patterned bear, can run straight and fiercely. When encountering obstacles, it will make right-angle turns to avoid, and is very not good at slowly turning roads. Well, the first one is just charging straight at the bear. After understanding the general information, Sheng breathed a sigh of relief. Since that's the case, Aoguyen, please. Jojo. Jojo. I will do my best. The proud swallow flew over Sheng's head, hovering at a low altitude on the side close to him, clearly ready for battle. He has considered using his flying attributes to counter the general attribute of the direct bear. Without knowing what Pokémon the two below Sheng are, the flying swallow has some advantages over the direct bear on the ground. Flight attribute, but mine is straight towards the bear. Sheng murmured softly and then spoke up, battle begins. Go straight to the bear, use 100,000 volts. Sheng decisively issued a command, and in an instant, a golden arc jumped onto the bear's body. A brilliant thunderbolt burst out from its body, striking straight at the proud swallow. Surprisingly, you still know the ultimate move in the electrical system. Sheng then shouted without thinking, use high-speed movement to dodge, seize the gap and immediately catch Yan Hui. Just before the arrival of 100,000 volts, the proud swallow quickly flapped its wings and took off, barely escaping a blow. Without waiting for Sheng's instructions, the proud swallow's body instantly turned into a gray-white lightning bolt, diving towards the distant charging bear. Quickly dodge. But the proud swallow's extremely fast speed even flashed shadows in the air. 1 second before he gave instructions, he collided solidly with the bear and quickly launched backwards to widen the distance. The high-speed movement that originally increased speed, coupled with the agile Yan Hui, makes it reasonable for the bear to charge straight and avoid it. Seeing this scene, Sheng looked at Sheng in surprise. He had never expected that this proud swallow would return. I really can't underestimate the newcomer trainers nowadays, it makes me feel a bit at risk. Go straight to the bear, use surfing, step on it, and then thunder at the proud swallow. A wave surged beneath the body of the bear, who had not yet lost his combat ability. At the same time, a thundercloud dancing with lightning suddenly appeared above the field. Are you still playing like this? Sheng stared at the proud swallow dodging around in the random thunder and spoke with some concern, continue to use high-speed movement to avoid lightning. Before he could finish his words, the wave surging towards the bear completely enveloped the proud swallow, followed by a thick thunderbolt that struck the two Pokémon at their feet. Use digging holes to avoid huge thunder. Sheng spoke lightly, looking as if he had a chance to win. At the moment when the huge thunder struck, he charged straight towards the bear and dug a hole to hide underground, safely avoiding this move. The waves, thunder, and clouds dispersed, and the proud Yen lay peacefully on the ground with his eyes in circles. I'm sorry, I didn't consider it carefully. Sheng felt guilty and took the proud swallow back into the Pokémon ball. Sure enough, the actual battle is really different. Setting aside his worries, Sheng's heart ignited an unnamed flame, and his whole body's cells became excited. When it was truly a battle between martial arts and martial arts, it turned out to be such a passionate event. He felt that his whole body had become somewhat light, and this feeling of nervousness and excitement had not appeared for a long time. However, I won't lose again next. Chapter 10 Challenge. Orange Flower Road Pavilion, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh. What would you do if I replaced this child? Sheng withdrew and charged straight towards the bear, then threw another Pokémon ball. Suddenly, a white light flashed through, and one was gray all over, but with two long strands of fur flowing around its back, it was used as a scarf. Chino Chinchilla, Scarf Treasure Can Dream, the evolution of Foam Chinchilla, white body hair covered with special oil can avoid enemy attacks. Well, it's also a general attribute. Su Sheng thought for a moment. Mu Shougong, we need to win this battle with the will of the proud swallow. Jiao. Just leave it to me. Mu Shougong, use shadow clones. Su Sheng has his own way of dealing with this Pokémon, as he still doesn't know what the other person's characteristics are. He remembers that the Chino chipmunk has a charming body trait, which could potentially captivate the opposite-sex Pokémon who come into contact with it and fall in love. Looking at the dozens of wooden guards appearing on the field, Xiaoxing smiled slightly and said, in that case. Chino chipmunk, use high-speed stars to shoot these virtual shadows. For a moment, several golden stars floated around the body of the Chino chipmunk, and at the moment of formation, they all attacked the wooden palace. Mu Shougong, move at high speed to avoid these stars. At the moment of hearing the instructions, all the wooden guards were running at high speed in the field, with only a few virtual shadows being knocked out by the high-speed stars, but the problem was not significant. Right now, use the energy ball immediately. Su Sheng's expression tightened, but he still commanded rationally. A green glow immediately appeared on Mu Shougong's palm, and in no time, several fluorescent balls with green hues brushed towards the Chino chipmunk. It's a bit difficult to handle, this is a sweeping slap. Faced with the incoming energy ball, Xiaoxing signaled to Chino chipmunk to scatter all the energy balls. Then use enchantment towards Mu Shougong. A few pink hearts silently drifted towards the wooden palace, but he didn't seem to expect that this wooden palace was also male in this way. Su Sheng also ruled out a risk. Taking advantage of Xiaoxing's stunned moment, he quickly shouted to Mu Shougong, flash of lightning. Then use the energy ball face to face. The speed of the lightning flash combined with the previously increased speed of high-speed movement, coupled with the shortened distance between the two Pokémon silently, almost instantly, Mu Shougong was in front of the Chino chipmunk. Xiaoxing was about to command, but it was already too late. Chino Chinchilla was firmly hit by a powerful energy ball from Mu Shougong. In an instant, the venue was shrouded in smoke, and both of them held their breath and focused, feeling a bit nervous. But the result was that the Chino chipmunk lay on the ground, with a disheveled face and circular eyes. Oh, it's my negligence. You've done a great job already, Xiaoxing comforted the Chino chipmunk as he withdrew it. I just tamed this child not long ago, and it's not surprising to have this result. But are you really a newcomer trainer? Are you from Shenzhen? Su Sheng shook his head and took Mu Shougong back into the ball. It's great, Mu Shougong, he said, I didn't come here in vain. He knew that Xiaoxing was asking because of the super newcomer Xiaoji, but he didn't think he was that outrageous either. Forget it, make a quick decision and have something to do tonight. Xiaoxing looked headache-stricken as he raised his hand and threw the Pokéball. Machi slash, it's up to you to end this game. A burst of white light flashed, and a big cat with red patterns appeared in the center of the field. The memory of fighting against its archenemy, the rice spoon snake, has been engraved into its cells, using its agile body to evade attacks. The final battle, come on, Meloieta. Su Sheng rubbed Meloieta sitting on his shoulder and looked at Xiaoxing calmly. Melo, please rest assured to hand it over to me. The combat attribute is twice as strong as the general attribute, and coupled with the petite size of Meloieta, evasion will be easy. Su Sheng is bound to win this battle and then obtain the Libra badge. At the moment Xiaoxing saw Meloieta, his pupils slightly dilated and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Is this the configuration that a new trainer should have? There should still be a chance of winning if you play well. Slash the weasel and use the shadow clone. Xiaoxing calmed down and commanded calmly. Faced with dozens of ferrets being beheaded, Su Sheng simply spoke calmly, the song of the ancient. Meloieta sings the ancient song lightly, and its form also changes in the singing voice. The Meloieta in dance form has a general plus combat attribute. However, it seemed that it did not affect the action of the weasel slash. The two Pokémon were frozen in place, both waiting for each other's flaws. I won't move if the enemy doesn't move me. If you play like this. Meloieta, use illusion light to sweep the weasel and slay it. Machi / Shadow Ball. The two of them launched a command in front of each other, and on the scene, Meloieta's phantom light collided with several pitch-black spheres of light, blasting up waves of air in mid-air. Okay, how about playing like this? Meloieta, sing to the weasel and let it sleep well. Meloieta's long and gentle singing echoed through the battlefield, and both trainers almost fell into a coma. However, with its strong willpower, the weasel still stood clear in the center of the field. Next, it's time for us to counterattack. Machi / jumps up and uses combo slashes. Let's go up, Meloieta, block the tiles. Once again, the two engaged in a confrontation, with several mongooses leaping and slashing back and forth with their claws. Meloieta tried her best to block the attack of the mongooses chopping with tiles. Even though the virtual shadows of a few ferrets chopping through the tiles were scattered, Meloieta did not completely block the crazy attack and fell straight to the ground from mid-air, splashing scattered smoke and dust. Is everything okay? Meloieta, can you still move? Seeing Meloieta fall from mid-air, his trembling voice all expressed his concern for Meloieta. Melo. I can still continue. The smoke and dust dissipated, and Meloieta drifted back into mid-air. So tenacious. Sheng was also quite shocked by its resilience. After all, many Pokémon had fallen under the move of the weasel / before, / the meerkat, pursue it with victory, and use close combat to end it. Sheng also seized the loophole and cautiously commanded, good opportunity. Meloieta, use the carol to destroy its phantom. For a moment, the carol of Meloieta's singing destroyed the remaining phantom of the weasel / while the weasel / endured the damage caused by the carol and continued to approach Meloieta. Abandoning protection and rushing towards Meloieta, your stamina will be greatly reduced after hitting. As Sheng watched the last ferret chop closer and closer, he decisively said, open your body sideways and use the lower kick. At the critical moment, Meloieta turned aside and swiftly aimed at her opponent's foot to deliver a thunderous blow. Suddenly, the attacked weasel slashed its body and fell in the direction of Meloieta. What? Does it still kick down?